I don't use it.
Good evening. Welcome to Tuesday, September 22nd, 2020 Selectmen's meeting. Is all of the selectmen are here. Four of them are here via Zoom. We have the town manager, the town clerk, the town planner, and the town human resource director is around the corner and she'll be joining us later. Please stand with me and salute the flag.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
indivisible,
justice
with
for all.
liberty and justice for all.
Boy, that wasn't synchronized.
There we go.
Zoom delays.
Yep, the little delay there. We have the approval of the September 8th minutes.
I move that we accept the minutes as amended.
I'll second them.
We have a motion and a second. If no further discussion, I'll go through the roll. Is Ed,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Ken,
Yes.
Noah,
Yes.
and myself is a yes.
Mark, I think you were absent.
Oh, yeah, that's right. He was absent on that
No, I
one.
wasn't absent last meeting, was I?
Yes, you were.
It was the last meeting? Oh,
Yeah.
I'm
Oh,
sorry.
yeah. All right, so 4 and 1 abstention. That brings us to our first public comment. We have nobody here. Did anybody chime in? Patty wanting to come in?
No, but can I get a second on the minutes first?
I'll second.
Oh, because Mark seconded. Okay,
Ken, thank you.
Ken did it. Do we need to go through the roll again?
No, I'm set.
Okay.
No, I didn't receive any emails, Tom.
Okay. So that brings us to our public hearing. We have the general assistance maximums adoption, then we have 1, 2, 3, 4 dealing with marijuana, and 1 proposed changes to the land use ordinance. We'll go through the general assistance maximum first.
Okay, I'll address that. Every year, the Department of DHHS puts out sometimes changes, sometimes no changes on the amounts and that are allowed for general assistance benefits if needed. I'll just give you a quick overview. The overall maximum was an increase of about 2%. Food maximum went up 5%. The housing maximum increased by 2%. Otherwise, there was no changes to utilities or heating fuel or personal care and household supplies. The mileage reimbursement was 0.45 cents per mile. And then the funeral maximums, there was no change. So you just have to adopt those numbers that you have, and that should be all set.
Any questions of Steve?
We never really maxed out on the usage of the general assistance, right?
No,
So
we always budget around 10,000. We have in the last 4 years 10,000, and I don't even think we spend 2,000 of that. It's very very low usage. So that's a good thing for the economy that people aren't using it. But I don't know if that's going to be the case this winter.
Right.
So, but it's there if it's needed.
Any other questions of the town manager? If not, I'll looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we accept the GA proposals as presented.
second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, I'll go through the roll. Is Ed,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Ken,
Yes.
Noah,
Yes.
and myself is yes. Thank you. So on the next ones is is, James can pipe in here anytime, but is I believe these are all, the marijuana ones are all licenses that have gone through the regular planning board process. They've met all our requirements and everything.
Yeah, for conditional use approval.
So is all we're looking to do here is to, give them the official blessing, correct? Similar to what we
Right.
did last meeting.
Right.
Is, now is, James had suggested that we combine all of these as one public hearing rather than do each one separately. And then we can vote on each one separately. Is there a problem with that?
I don't see a problem with that, unless you have issues with one of them, but you're gonna talk, you should bring it up if anybody has any
Yeah.
comments.
So,
How many different places do we have, Tom?
well, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 before us tonight. 3 medical
They're all separate.
right. The 3 medical marijuanas and 1
Adult use.
adult use cultivation and storefront is,
Where?
so,
Yeah, I can go through.
Where,
it is, we'll have James address that, why don't we?
Yeah, just a reminder for everyone and anyone listening, the whole purpose of licensing is to ensure that not only is there compliance, but there's timely remedies to compliance. So these public hearing notices are posted in the paper, and notices are sent to abutters, direct abutters. So for this first round, this license is a really good introduction for the cultivators, for the business owners, and to meet the select board. So we have 4 licensees here tonight, and that's what?
Turn your sound off because you're speaking into the microphone, I think.
Technical difficulties. How do I sound?
Yeah.
So we have 4 licensees tonight representing 6 total licenses. The first 2 on the agenda are for 398 School Street. There are 5 buildings at 398 School Street, and there's up to, as I understand, 3 tenants in each, up to 3 in each building. So we have here tonight for 398 School Street, White Ash and Jen Griffith, which I believe is Williams Greenery. So if White Ash, if you want to kick it off and introduce yourself to the board and what you're all about, and I think you got to unmute yourself.
Yeah, you're on mute.
How you doing? Is this better?
That's better.
Yes.
Yep.
How you doing? My name is Greg. I'm with White Ash Cultivation. It's just a medical marijuana cultivation facility, and just kind of been the beginning of this year, kind of been just getting things rolling, and that's pretty much it.
Is any questions from the board for Greg?
Where on School Street is it?
At 398 School Street.
Yeah, I know that. What's the landmark near 398?
That's up by the schools, right?
There's an elementary school a little bit
Right.
down the street.
Right in between the elementary school and North Berwick Auto.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, way down there.
We're right between STK storage unit, and then there's another storage unit, like right down the street on the other side, right in the middle of those two.
Right.
Yeah. And that's where you're moving?
That's where I am right now.
Springers?
Yeah, Dave Springer's place.
Okay, yeah.
Yes.
So, any other questions for Greg from the board? I have just a couple quick questions. How long have you been in business, Greg?
So I started building the place out in 2019, but didn't really start getting the plants and everything rolling until this year.
Yeah. Are you from the area here?
I am not originally from the area. I grew up in Massachusetts, but I have lived up here for about 3 years now.
Right. So, how many employees do you figure you'll be having?
Right now, I have 1 official employee with 2 more working on getting their employment assistant card.
All right. Any other questions for Greg?
Where are you from in Massachusetts?
I'm originally from Everett, Massachusetts.
And you live in Berwick now?
Right now I'm staying in York, and on October 15th, I'm moving to Waterboro.
Okay. Yep.
What made you decide to come to Berwick? Why Berwick as opposed to anywhere else?
So truthfully, in 2014, I got diagnosed with cancer and wasn't able to go back to my regular job. And while I was sick, I started, growing my own medicine. And then from that, I just kind of looked into finding a good opportunity up here so that I could, still have a job and not be somebody who's on disability for the rest of my life. And this was I was introduced to Dave and just kind of got the ball rolling.
Is there anything that stood out that made Berwick your choice location as opposed to any others?
At first it was easy to get the location, considering like I said, I was just coming off getting sick, so to actually try and buy a house and do all that on my own would have been very difficult. So it was kind of the best situation for me, and also I like that it's in southern Maine and it's close to kind of, New Hampshire, and still close to my family that's back in Massachusetts.
Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, we could go over to the next one.
Yep, so the next one, I believe is Williams Greenery, Jen Griffin.
Uh-oh.
I know.
We go.
Not gonna work. Okay.
No. We got technical difficulties. Please stand by. Yeah, still trying to figure out these hybrid meetings and what we need for hardware here.
So Jen.
Hi,
How you doing?
I'm well, thank you, and yourself?
Not bad. Is if you could just explain to us a little bit about yourself and what you're doing, and give us your background if you would.
I'm a caretaker for Williams Greenery. I work at 398 School Street. I have one employee. What we're about is just making sure we have good medical plans and able to provide for other people in other ways. I have a medical background, so I definitely believe in supporting medical needs.
Now, where's all this marijuana go? Does this have to stay in the state of Maine?
Yes, it has to stay in the state of Maine.
Well, when do you reach the point of, it's too much? You know what I mean? When there's a lot of things going on, not in Berwick, but in the state. Is there a point where you have too much pot, or then you put it on the black market? Does it go somewhere else? No.
Oh no, we're limited on what can be grown and how it's distributed.
Oh, so they let the state. Okay.
Yes. There's state regulations that have to be followed to what can be produced in its quantity.
Right.
Right.
And with the tracking and everything is they track it right from the beginning right through the end product. So the state has a pretty good idea about everything that passes through their hands. So.
Yeah, right. So if that's anything else the state takes care of for us, Tom was screwed.
Right. So. Any questions for Jen from the rest of the board?
Same question. I'll probably ask the same question for all of you. I'm just curious as what the draw to Berwick is for it seem to have a large number of people interested in Berwick as their location for production, and distribution, and sales. So I'm just kind of curious what's driving that interest in people who are focused on this particular industry.
Quite frankly, it was in a good area. I like the security features. I like the fact that it was kept behind a gate, so keeping the general public out was a big feature. It's close to home, and it's close to the store that we sell the products for medical use.
Where is that store?
That is at 2 Bow Street.
Portsmouth?
No, right in South Berwick, or is it Berwick? Berwick.
So right Berwick.
Yes.
You live in Berwick?
Do I live in Berwick? No, I do not. I live in
Where are you from?
Kennebunk. Yeah,
Yeah,
Arundel.
so.
I'm newer to the area, so this seems, I think, my old home, but no, I live in Arundel.
Is you know, as both Greg and Jen have said, is you know, they're actually subleasing space from the
Springer's.
place up there, right?
Yes.
So is you know, he has the facilities, you know, to do that. So that's probably why they came here, I would imagine. So is any other questions of Jen? If not,
So we got Bill, who's on the same screen, sharing the same screen, and he's cultivating at 1 Blackmore Road. So I think it's a pretty similar to what's going on in Springer's Place. 1 Blackmore Road was permitted as agriculture, kind of similar to Raymond Place. So we can go into the cultivation part on 1 Blackmore Road if you guys would like to do that. And then Bill also is the owner of 2 Bow Street, the storefront.
is go ahead, Bill. You know, you've seen everybody else. Give us some your background.
Yeah, I've seen you guys a few times too.
Yep.
Yeah, I went off of Dennis Road a lot, and at 1 Blackmore Road, and I grow my marijuana there for the medical reasons, and the product goes from there to 2 Boat Street in Berwick. I want to keep everything. If I'm working in the town, I want to try to keep everything in your town.
There's water over there in that 1 Blackmore Road?
Yeah, there's water.
What's that, going to the tracks, or is there a well there?
It's a well, I believe, artesian.
Well, if you cross the tracks and you take a left.
Yep, because
Yeah,
the track,
yeah.
it's right there on the left.
Yeah, okay.
Dennis's workshop when he was in the carpentry. Yeah, it's all gated in and
Is
pretty quiet over there.
You have a residential area, James.
Yeah, that was one of
You got houses right there.
that was one of those that was permitted as agriculture before we even zoned it. It's tucked away. It's tucked away. It's right next to the railroad
I know
track.
just where it is. I know I
Right.
take care of the road.
right.
I know just where it is.
So is Bill is between your 2 facilities? Is how many employees do you have?
One,
Just you and one other? Yeah.
and
Yeah.
yeah, but the store,
Yeah.
I have 2, sometimes 3,
Okay.
but I got a federal ID number now, so I can put everybody on, because I got incorporated,
Right.
every on payroll.
So.
I tell you, I'm not happy about this. I hate to be an asshole, but I don't know how you got it on 1 Blackmore Road. That's all residential area. People live everywhere there. There's a big apartment complex going right across the street from you on the other side of the tracks. It just seems to me that I don't care. I don't know how the town ended up doing this. It's just wrong.
Well, as James said earlier, is that was listed as an agricultural area.
All right, so Tom,
Be-
I got 200 acres of agriculture, so I can just start putting up buildings and rent them?
Is
What-
J-
Yeah, what happened is I believe the state changed their marijuana laws, which kind of opened up this door for marijuana cultivation to be done. And at the time, it was permitted as an agricultural building. And that's how both Raymond Place and this place on Blackmore Road was permitted.
yeah, before
Raymond Place is one thing. It's out in the industrial area. Blackmore Road is people live. They live there. It's a neighborhood. I don't get it, guys. I'm telling you right now, I don't get it. So, whatever. Not right.
yeah, I know those facilities were brought in before Berwick had a chance to really start getting our fingers into it and getting it to where we wanted it to be. Unfortunately, we weren't prepared for it when the state changed. So,
Yep.
any other questions for Bill? If not, we'll go to the next one.
Sure. That's Ken Crowley at Herbal Pathways. He's out on Portland Street.
Your turn, Ken.
Good evening, everyone.
How you doing?
Good, good. So I've been in the business over 5 years. The reason I liked Berwick was I live in Lebanon, Maine. Lebanon wasn't opt-in yet. I wanted something close by. I'm also the first approved in Gardner, Maine for retail there. And I also own a store in Lanesboro, Massachusetts. So I've been in business just over, going on 6.5 years.
Any questions?
Well, that Plainfield store took right off. I saw it in the paper. They were standing out for hours in front of your store when you opened, right?
In Lanesboro, it's not open yet. That had to be somewhere else. Lanesboro, Mass. Is over by the New York border.
Oh, I thought you
The
said
Berkshires.
Plainfield. I'm sorry.
No, no problem. I wish it was open.
So how do you justify coming to Berwick? How do you feel about it?
I like the town. It was close to Lebanon, Maine, where I'm at.
Yeah.
And I wanted to stay close to that location. I have 4 retail licenses in the state of Maine, and I was looking for places close. One is, the furthest one I have right now is in Gardner, Maine, and that was approved by Gardner City, the city of Gardner.
Yeah.
And then Berwick right now.
So you can't take Borough Park, Maine, and bring it to Massachusetts, can you?
No, sir.
So all has to stay in the state of Maine.
Correct. Correct. So the store in Massachusetts, I have to purchase from cultivators in Massachusetts, and then for adult use in Maine, I'll have to purchase from adult use cultivators in the state of Maine.
I just don't know how they're gonna keep track of all this. You know, there's gotta be some way they're pushing it to the black market. It just, I can't believe we're gonna do all that up. There's gonna be stuff going out the back door. I don't know. It's crazy.
I know that everything has to be seed to sale tracked, and RF tags and everything else, so I don't see how that happens. If it does, I think they catch on to it, from Washington State, Oregon, Colorado. I think you see very little of that happening.
Just check on 60 Minutes. 60 Minutes just had a big thing on Oregon where the illegal pot distributing was putting out of business the people that ran legitimately. They just had a big 60 Minutes on it last month or two. So that's wrong. The West Coast is wrong. It's flipped.
Yeah.
I just don't understand it. It's easy to do. Everyone tells me it's hard to do. It's not hard to do. You grow plants in that Maine. There's no state guy watching you or anybody. It just goes out the back door.
No, there are plenty of, there's still plenty of illegal grows, that aren't regulated, and that's where most of the black market ones come from. And I'm sure for every legal grow that we have, there's probably 2 or 3 illegal grows going.
Yeah.
So
sure.
I have especially where the state of Maine has taken all these years to get to this point, is they've really been looking at what's happening in all the other states, and if anything, I think we're probably more strict than a lot of the other states are. So
to that point, Tom, is our procedure or allowance for licenses here in Berwick easier than every other town? Is it something like that is driving a large number of growers to come to Berwick, making it easier for everybody? Or I'm just curious.
On the adult use side, what happened is that it was us and Elliott were the only towns in York County to opt in. That's what drove a big of the adult use interest. Lebanon's subsequently opted in, and there's a few others that are considering it on the second round. But
so my other question, maybe to the growers, is obviously we're going to reach a saturation point, and I'm curious as to what your thoughts are concerning competition. I mean, there's got to be a point at some time that we've reached a point where I guess the strong will weed out the weak, I suppose. I'm not sure, but I think there has got to be a limit at some point for the number of businesses that we take in Berwick. I think that we're trying to attract other industry as well, and that may be a detractor for some. I'm not saying that this is not it's a business just like any other, and I understand that, but I think that some may see that as a reason not to come to Berwick. And I don't want us to reach that point, and I want to offer opportunity of capitalism just like anybody else. But I think that there has to be some limit to what we're doing, and I don't want Berwick to be known as, you know, the pot capital of Maine, and I think we just need to think about that future, what the future of Berwick is going to be.
We gotta think real hard about it. You are 100% correct on what it is. And we have to make sure these places are neat, and they're safe, and they look good from the road, and there's no danger to children or anybody else to do it. It's just, I don't know how we got one on Blackmore Road. You know, where's the transparency here, James? The only place I thought we could do it was on Route 9 or Route 4. Never heard of Blackmore Road before for the last 2 years. Now I hear where else is there places we can go besides that?
That's it. I mean, that's it. It's and we've reached the number of conditional use permits, so we're done taking any. We're going to revisit the number in a year. That was part of the land use ordinance amendment.
Right.
Yeah, we're at the cap. I mean, we've definitely put a cap to it at its ultimate apex of what you know. I mean, I agree with the point of, you know, we don't want to oversaturate with the industry, but we also stand to, I think, benefit for some economic activity if we can mitigate the risks and mitigate the nuisance concerns, and that's why we have licensing. And you guys have the right to revoke the license at any time with a public hearing. So.
And if I can address the saturation point, you know, is like any other business, is, you know, is with drugstores. CVS puts up a drugstore, you know, within months. Rite Aid has one across the street, and then Walgreens has one down the block, and it's just a matter of, you know, somebody sees the opportunity and moves in. And as far as the number of businesses in Berwick, is, you know, when Berwick as a town voted, you know, 4 years ago, it was a pretty strong vote for allowing it. And since then, when we've seen what has happened, that's where we've been seeing the ordinance has been tightened up and changed. And I agree, you know, this is something that we need to look at, but, you know, what we have in place now is what we have in place now. And, you know,
what you guys do now, in the future, is gonna see what happens when you come for a license again, or anybody else in the future is gonna come, because if you're not running a good operation, you're not getting my vote.
Right.
Believe me, you're not gonna get it. So it's gotta be clean, neat, everything like that. Yeah. Just because it's Berwick, I don't think we should have a half-assed thing. It's gotta look right.
You know, and
I agree. I'm purchasing the property that I'm gonna be at, 468 Portland Street.
You're the one that's gonna buy the piece from Brownie?
Huh?
That's Steve Brown's property?
Brent Austin. 468, it's Spin Analytical that owns it right now.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so you bought Spin Analytical building, yep. I heard that.
So.
And where are you from, sir?
Lebanon, Maine.
Okay.
Yeah. And that'll be nice, neat. It'll be clean. You'll be more than welcome to come over and look at it before we open or even during.
Yeah, no problem.
You'll be very impressed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And if I can just address also the safety issue, you know, I've talked to the chief about this, Chief Town, and he said that, you know, so far they've had no problems with any facility in Berwick. They've all been good neighbors. You know, other than occasionally somebody's alarm goes off inadvertently, you know, they review the police review every plan ahead of time and give their ideas about what they think should be done. So I think that, you know, we really have been keeping an eye on things and how things have been moving in Berwick. So I don't have a problem with what's going on as is right now, but like I said, like we all said, it's getting to a point where we have to look at this in the future. But I think that's another discussion to have other than during this hearing here, because this is for the licensing. And, no, as I said, they've already gone through all the process to get to this point, so they've met all their criteria. So, any other questions from the board? If not, I'm gonna go down through each one individually and we'll have a vote on the licensing. The first one is the medical marijuana production facility, White Ash at 398 School Street, Unit 4K. Do I have a motion? Yes, no, maybe?
Move to accept.
We have a motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on this license?
No.
If not, I'll go through the roll. Ed?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
Noah?
Yes.
And myself is a yes. So then we have a medical marijuana production facility with Jen Griffith at 398 School Street, Unit C.
Move to accept.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
I'll second.
Is any further discussion? If not, I'll go through the roll. Is Ed?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
Noah?
Yes.
And myself is a yes. So then we have a medical marijuana production facility and medical marijuana storefront with Williams Greenery at 2 Bow Street and 1 Blackmore Road.
Move to accept.
Motion, do we have a second?
Second.
And no further discussion. I'll go through the roll. Is Ed?
Yes.
Mark?
No.
Ken?
Yes.
Noah?
Yes.
And myself is a yes. So 4-1, Patty. And then we have adult use marijuana cultivation facility and adult use marijuana storefront, Herbal Pathways at 468 Portland Street.
Move to accept.
We have a
I'll second it.
we have a motion and a second. I'll go through the roll. Is Ed?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes. Yes.
Noah?
Yes.
And myself is a yes. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
That brings us to the proposed changes for the land use ordinance for the January 2021 town referendum warrant. And James will get us through that one too.
So these changes, they mostly deal with the downtown. There's a few others at the end of the document that are pretty minor in scope. We spent about a year, the planning board in Vision Berwick, to make amendments to the village overlay district. It went from a few pages to about 18 pages. And we attempted to do what's called a form-based code, which is highly prescriptive, meaning that initially we made it a lot of mandates because we didn't know who we were dealing with. We didn't know who the developer was, and we felt like we wanted to make sure that we had a lot of things in there to make sure that the vision was protected. Now that we know who we're dealing with, the type of people and the company that has a reputation, it would be advantageous to the town to allow them to have a little flexibility in some of these mandates. And I'll go over some examples, the substantive changes in the village overlay district. And they might seem, they're pretty subtle changes. Like we mandated parallel parking on Main Street, which if you do that, you want to have on-street parking for the Main Street. And having parallel parking narrows the street, which makes it easier to cross. But these guys, I mean, with Great Falls Construction and Sepago Technics, they're going to know how to design where some angle parking can go. And with angle parking, you can fit more cars, which then means you have less of a need to do off-street parking in the development site, which of course means if you have off-street parking, that means you have less room for buildings. Another very small is we had a requirement in there to raise the crosswalks, makes them more visible for folks. However, giving them the option to do that or not, if you're keeping it flat, say Great Falls Construction wants to close that street down and we want to hold a farmer's market there, it might just be better to have it all flat. The biggest change by far is having language in there to accommodate a drive-through. Initially, we had farm language in there. We were concerned about chains and big box stores. We now know that will not really fit into the village design. This drive-through will accommodate an anchor tenant. And an anchor tenant is what pays the highest lease, which allows for those mom and pop shops to come into town. I mean, those are the biggest property tax payers as well. So a drive-through will accommodate a bank and a coffee shop. And those are also, I mean, with COVID, to have a drive-through, it just makes a lot of sense. So I mean, those are the big changes. It really helps to maximize the development potential downtown. And this is all leading up to a special town meeting in January. And Great Falls Construction will be to the planning board through to the winter. They're sharing their concept plan in December. So that'll be nice timing where getting that change in there will allow them to get approved through planning board, you know, late winter, early spring, and head towards construction in the summer.
So James, you and I discussed landscaping on some of this stuff. Is that gonna be voted on too, so we have a plan that everything's gonna be done correctly and kept correctly, right?
We have a whole landscaping section in that village overlay district, and I'll share it with you. We got a mandate for, there's a tree every so many feet.
It's enforceable?
Yep. And that's already, I've seen part of their site plan and they have the street trees in there and, yeah, so, and another part of accommodating a drive-through is allowing some parking in front of buildings. And then if that happens, parking lots need to be screened by either buildings or landscaping. So I'll touch base with you on it's a couple pages long.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions for James?
I don't know if this is for James or Steve, but the special meeting or vote in January, what is driving that?
That is being driven.
We can't get this into the November timeframe
Yeah,
or hold off until June?
No, this is being driven by the bond, the $1.2 million water department bond. We have initially thought we didn't have to go through the legislative process because they are an enterprise fund. They don't use taxpayer money. But according to the lawyer, we are the town backs that up based on how we were structured. So we have to go to the legislative body, and timing is such that we have enough funding to get us through the preliminary work that the Wright Pierce is going to do, and then once we get approval, and if we get approval in January, we can start drawing down that funding when we need it, depending upon what we decide we need to be able to do to either find a better water source or build a plant that will handle the removal of the manganese and other products that we were having trouble with. So we were going to have it in November, but we had to push it off because we just didn't have enough time with some of the changes that we were doing. So we're in full swing with Wright Pierce. They're going to be here this week to do some exploratory stuff. So timing is good. So that's what's driving it. is that.
Okay.
Any other questions for James or Steve? I just want, I don't know if questions or comments, but I know that, when we first started this whole process, back many years ago, it seems like now, that was one of the big things was, drive-throughs. People at the public hearings we had were saying they didn't want to see McDonald's and Burger Kings everywhere. And that's what drove that whole part of it. But, is the way the situation is right now with COVID especially is, and no interior dining in a lot of places is something that we really need to consider. And also is, I don't see where Great Falls wants to control the entire parcel. It's not like we're gonna break it up into 4 or 5 different parcels and then have 4 or 5 different developers all looking to put some kind of drive-through in. So I don't think we have to have that worry right now. And if I read this correctly, James, is it would, drive-through would only be over on School Street or the new roads that they build in the interior
Right.
of it. So it wouldn't be like on Sullivan Street or Wilson Street or anything
Right.
like that.
Right.
So,
Yep.
Hey, James, can they have a drive-up food store right downtown in there? Can we have that so we can just drive up and get it? There too, downtown, is that got in there somehow?
if we can get a grocery store in,
Right.
We'll get a food store.
yeah.
Good.
So, any other questions, comments? If not, I'm looking for a motion to accept the proposed changes.
So moved.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
I'll go through the roll. Is Ed,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Ken,
Yes.
Noah,
Yes.
and myself is a yes. And just to point out that this is just to okay it to be put on the warrant, so if people really don't like it, they can always vote it down.
Yeah, and if there's
So-
any questions, I'm at planning at Berwick, Maine, or I'm extension 124 at the town hall. I'd be happy to, rephrase it or kind of explain what we're doing.
So,
James, what about signage? We have, I got upset about that banner the guy had to the left of the town hall there. Do we have any sign ordinances saying, this is where it's gotta be and this is where it's gonna look, anything like that?
We have some sign standards. I think we can touch them up. We have, for downtown, we have some design guidelines to show
Yeah.
people what we want. But Williams Greenery was really, they took it down within 2 days. I sent them an email and they took it down.
I noticed that, yeah, that was good.
So.
That was good.
all right. If so, I'll close the public hearing. That was a long one.
Yeah, it was.
We don't have any reports of committees. You don't have anything, do you, James?
Just, I'm gonna go, Elise is our branding person. She's working on some town signage that will unify the signage downtown. And then we're looking for proposals for Great Falls Park. Our consultant on the park, Cornelius, he gave us a contact that I feel pretty good about. So we're gonna do looking to do some minor site work there to get that moving.
How much money do we have for that, James?
Envision Berwick has a small pot of money that, we can do we're not looking to do anything major. Maybe I'll be back to you if it's anything that's substantial, but we're just trying to remove some invasive species and cut
You
some.
sent me that stuff, I
yeah.
printed it all out to print and.
I'm not sure what we're looking at for a quote, but I'm not thinking of it being a major project.
Anything else?
That's it.
So no departments reports?
Nope. That's like October, you'll start seeing each department's coming, at each meeting will be coming, probably all Zoom.
Yep.
But we've got some creative stuff we're doing, and you'll get reports from each department head about where they are, and what their plans are for the coming year. So it'll be fun.
All right, so next we have planning board appointment. Jerry Graybell is, there's Jerry there. How you doing, Jerry?
I'm doing good.
If you could just give us a little bit of your background and, tell us why you want to be on the planning board?
Okay, I came to the Berwick, South Berwick area back in 1986 when I was in the Navy. So I've been here since 1986. I live at 10 Pond Road in Berwick, and I've lived here at this house for 31 years. And I currently work for an engineering firm in Laconia.
That's the heck of a travel.
I don't go there every day, but I've been doing it since 2008, so
Yeah.
it's no problem.
Yeah. Does the board have any questions for Jerry?
Why do you want to serve, Jerry?
Why do I want to serve? I spent the last 6 months working with James on the project at 11 Pond Road because of the issues that I felt that they're my neighbor and I felt that it was wrong. So we wronged a lot of the rights on that. And I think with my background, I'd be able to help James and the planning board further on, upcoming applications.
Good, that's great. We appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you for volunteering.
Jerry was great to work with, and I think he's going to be an incredible asset and help us out a lot.
So
that's good news. Yep, that's good.
Is this for an alternate seat or for a regular member?
Yeah, I was just going to ask that.
Alternate.
Alternate.
An alternate say. And would that bring them to their full complement now?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
And Frank's working on getting Paul ready to try to come back.
Well, that's one of the things I was going to ask about Jerry, is having two engineers on the planning board. It might be kind of confusing, as I know how engineers can be. Well,
My background's in nuclear engineering, so. But I have an electrical engineering degree as well, but I deal with mechanical and plumbing all the time.
Yeah.
Good. So, it's an asset.
If there are no further questions, I'll look for a motion.
So moved.
We have a motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. I'll go through the roll. Is Ed?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
Noah?
Yes.
And myself is a yes. Welcome aboard, Jerry. We look forward to working with you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, James.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So, we have nothing under unfinished business. Is town manager report.
Lisa Vargas, in efforts to fine tune how we do our finances, in each of our departments we have capital reserve accounts, and historically you've always approved these accounts for specific pieces of equipment. And what's happened is that some of the times of the amount of money that we have appropriated for that, there's a little bit left over. Just to give you an idea, like in the police department, there's $4,800 left over from some of the smaller things that we had budgeted for a ways back in 2015 and 16 and 14 and 15. What she would like to do is report that as just one large capital or small capital reserve account. There still will be listed in the police department what that money was appropriated for, but if we have a project where we need something like that, we can still use those reserve account monies for something else. Like with and we have some money aside for equipment to go onto the police cars when we purchase new ones, which is 2 1 year and 1 another. That money, we have enough money in a pot right now for that to outfit the upcoming car that they're purchasing, and I just signed the lease agreements for. So we had enough money to outfit that without having to borrow as part of the lien process, so it's a little bit better for funding. But we also want to do that with fire and public works and the town hall. There's just funding that we could put it as a lump sum, but have it on the record as things that we need to spend it on. So the reporting mechanism just shows the capital improvement fund for this department has X number of dollars for it. And just need your blessing to have her do that. She wants to do that, just to fine tune how we report things after she's just finished the audit. So it's been a real experience for her.
Yeah.
So if everybody's okay with
Just
that.
for the police, or is this for all the different departments?
All the departments. The fire has money, about 35,000, but some of it's for station repairs or station ventilation, spot chains, and every year we allocate funding for the SCBA containers. We replace those on a regular basis when they outlive their usefulness. Things like that, radios, like we have and sometimes they're replacing radios on a regular basis, and that's where the money comes for these, but it's through this capital reserve account. Public Works has money left over, like from a stainless steel dump body, we went to purchase it, we allocated, I think, 35,000 for that, and when we went to purchase it, it was up over 40,000, we didn't have the money. So we decided to just purchase a steel body instead. And so we have a little bit of money left over for that. But that stays in capital reserve for equipment. And then we have another account, a capital reserve for infrastructure, which we buy our culverts and pave our roads with. And those are kept separate. And will stay that way. If that makes sense to you, when we do the warrant articles, we'll still list at the bottom, like we have historically, what the purpose of what we're looking for the funding that we're asking for. So it's still going to be very transparent what we're planning on purchasing. It's just one lump sum in the reporting. Anybody have any trouble with that?
Do you need an official vote on it, or?
I think so. The auditors are really sticky about that. So.
Okay. Yeah, Steve and I talked a little bit about this. He had given me some other examples of leftover funds, and for the auditing end of it, when you have 14 different things with a few dollars here and there, it gets more confusing. So, it's looking for a motion to allow the town manager and the accountant to finance director to manage the capital improvement accounts.
Yeah.
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. No further discussion. I'll go through the roll. Ed?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
Noah?
Yes.
And myself is yes.
On another note, if you remember back when the assessors were here last, we denied the prime storage request for abatement out on Portland Street. I think it's where they are.
Yeah.
And they appealed to the York County Commissioners that night, and our assessors were there to give their side, and then Prime Storage was able to do their side, and they granted them the abatement. But it was done very quickly. Not a lot of questions were asked. One of the commissioners and the city or county manager thought that it was done a little bit too quickly. They really need to go back and look at the finding of facts. They didn't really give a chance.
Which one is the prime storage
Yep.
on Portland Street?
That's the one is in the fields, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Right. Just up from Goulet's.
Fields?
560 Portland
Across the
Street?
street from Dino's? HP Cycle?
No, the one down further towards South Berwick.
So it's the one that, the red buildings where they, right next to the Spin Analytical?
Yes.
So what the commissioners have done, and you Board of Selectmen got a letter, came to me, from the county manager, Greg Zinner, that they are going to revisit that and evaluate that hearing on October 21st. 2020 at 4:30 p.m. So they're going to revisit it, and hopefully they make the decision based on what our assessors' recommendations were.
Steve, both those places, Steve, have been sold in the last year or so.
Yep.
You can go and look and see what they sold for.
Well,
Right? That's a good.
Well, I think that's what they based it on.
Yeah, well, if I remember correctly, is we assessed it for less than they purchased it for.
I'm sure we did, yeah.
And they contested no what we assessed them for, even though it was less than they purchased it for.
Yeah.
They said
What was
that
the purchase price, do you remember?
4.28 million.
4.2
million.
yeah.
Yeah, and no, their argument, if I remember correctly, was that part of that was intangibles by buying the name and getting the employees or something like that was their argument. And as far as the employees, I didn't know that you could buy and sell people.
Yeah.
I thought slavery was illegal. So, is to claim that that was part of the intangibles is beyond me. So, so at least they're looking at that again. I'm pleased with that.
We got our first draft of our audit today. I've been going through it. Lisa Vargas is on vacation for the next 3 days. She started to go through it, but hopefully when she gets back next week, we will have a chance to sit down and go through it. I've already found a few things that I think are mistakes. And Lisa's been going through it for quite a while and finding mistakes and a lot of cutting and pasting, and so, but it is coming, and hope to have it by the middle of, at the second meeting of the month, we'll have a final copy and have the auditors come and present it. Wright Pierce is going to be here on Thursday. They're going to meet with James, myself, and Jody on properties to look at for aquifers. A geologist has put together a bunch of places he wants to look at, and so we're getting started on that, which I'm excited about that. One of the things that we've been having here in the town office, and James, myself, and Lisa Vargas have been bombarded with solar energy projects. And I think it's time we maybe had a workshop after a short meeting some night to talk about the different types of proposals that are coming before us. Some of them are buying into the project itself, others are financially investing in it and getting benefits from it, and there's quite a few different scenarios that we keep getting hit with, and I think James and I and Lisa will get our head around what the different ones are, and then we'll hold a workshop so we can talk about it, and you can give us direction what you think we as a town might want to be interested in. I know Tom and I have talked about it. I think the first company was Revise. It came to see us after we got involved with the LED lights, and I just seem like I'm getting emails and phone messages on a regular basis to talk to them. So I want to get our arms around it so we better understand it and what's beneficial to us. So that will be coming up probably in the next few months. We'll sit down, hopefully. We'll Zoom it together, I guess, if anything else. But otherwise, that's all I have. Paving, they're going to do Little River Road next week. I thought they might get out there earlier, but we bought some time because the road crew's been out there ditching quite heavily, and we're going to have to remove some material and replace it because some of the gravel base is pretty bad. But I look forward to that being done in Logan Street, and that will finish it for the year. And hopefully it doesn't get any colder. But that's all I have.
Any other questions for the town manager?
Oh, fire station.
Oh.
Fire station. We keep pushing the punch list check forward because, one, we haven't got an occupancy permit yet because some things weren't completed. And the punch lists that Tom and Chief Plant have created is quite lengthy. And the architect has his own punch list. So they've got a few, we had a meeting today. There's a lot of little things that they have to fix. and also in the Sally Port, some things that they need to fix. So I don't see us doing a punch list probably for another week anyway. Once they get that fixed up, and then we'll be moving. But it's looking, station is beautiful, and everybody's done a real nice job. And we're anxious to see the landscaping get all done and the design, but they're almost done. But hopefully October will be the week we move in. But that's all I have. Any questions on that?
I just want to add, talking about the fire station is the town manager has got somebody to do an appraisal for the old fire station, and we hope to have that in the beginning of October, you said?
Yep.
So we'll have to discuss what we want to do with that and how we want to market that. We've had several people already express interest in it. So
We have to have an article in the January warrant. You don't have an article about disposing of town property, which surprised me a bit, but you probably never had to do it. But so you'll have an article in the warrant in January to say, to give permission for you to dispose of town property and how you manage that. So then we can sell that. They'll be in by then.
all right. The Selectmen communications, as Steve told you about the letter from the county commissioners, and that will bring us to the accounts payable. We have a payroll warrant number 17 from September 17th, 2020 for the amount of $84,153.33. We have a payroll warrant number 18 for September 24th, 2020, the amount of $77,595.95. And then we have account payable warrant 19 for September 24th, 2020, the amount of $641,049.03. I'll make the motion to pay the bills. Do I have a second?
Second.
I'll go through the roll. Is Ed?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
Noah?
Yes.
And myself is yes. That brings us to new business with a personnel policy for review and comments to be adopted on October 13th,
There she
2020.
And Lisa Hustis, who has put this together and refined this numerous times and fine-tuned it, and I think we've got a really great document, and we thank her for all the work she's done on this. You're on.
You don't need to read it word for word.
That's good, because it's 36 pages now.
Exactly.
In general, it's a combination of the personnel policy that we already had, plus a lot of stuff from Biddeford, town of Biddeford, Gorham, Portland, other towns that had personnel policies on their websites. So we picked some of theirs, we adjusted some of the language, we expanded a lot of the language, that stuff we didn't have in the past. Our office gets a lot of questions on personnel issues, so my old copy had a lot of notations on it. So this has answers to all the notations that I had. And then we also sent it up to legal for review. She double-checked all the language, made some corrections in my limited expanse of proper etiquette language. So she included all that, made corrections, and she thinks it's a solid document. So my question now is asking everybody, I've sent it to the department heads to review it, see if there's anything else that should be included, anything that's weak that there isn't enough clarity on. I've gotten a couple comments so far, but minor things, easily to work in. So that's what I'm looking for, if the selectmen would like to review it, see if they have any issues in any areas, and let me know, or if they want to see something more included, or if they need anything to help with documentation.
Any questions for Lisa? I guess not.
None.
Okay.
You stunned them.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll go through it. read through it. If you have any questions, you know how to get in touch with Lisa. It's quite an expanded thing from our last proposal, our
Yeah.
last policy. You know, it was about 4 or 5 pages long, wasn't it? Yeah.
And the other thing is, some of the sections that are in this are policies that the Board of Selectmen have already approved,
Right.
like nepotism and snow days and things. And those are gonna be put in the appendix in the back, and you'll see a reference. Sometimes there's some wording to explain it briefly, and then it says appendix. The suggestion from the attorney was then if the selectmen want to change wording in any of those policies, they can without changing the whole personnel policy all over again.
They just have to go into the appendix
Yeah.
and change that
Yeah.
one.
Piece or one word, or, I mean, as time goes, who knows what will be included
Right.
and changed, so.
We tried to make sure, we went through all the union contracts as well, and Lisa's been part of that since I've been here, to make sure that they correspond with things that are pertinent to personnel. Some of the union stuff, of course, is not in there, but some of the thought processes, and so we're as uniform as much as we can be, and with
Is this
both.
be online?
It will be, it can be.
Online? The policy, when it's done?
When it's done, it can be, yes.
Okay.
Once it's approved.
Yeah.
So take your time, read it, when you don't have anything else to do, and
All right, well, thank you.
and thank you, Lisa.
Thank you, Lisa.
Welcome.
Let's see, we have no quick claim deeds or installments, no abatements, no second public comment, because we have no public. Now, executive session, we do have an executive session listed, is that talking with the town manager and, our assistant clerk today, there are some other questions that we had to, for the people to answer for us. So I really don't see where we need to go into the executive session at this time. Is we get the answers we need, from the information, is we can take it up at our next meeting.
Yeah, we asked that, we invited this person, they have the right to be here, and we didn't get a response. So I think it's important that our questions get answered prior to us discussing it amongst the board members.
Right.
And convince them if they want this poverty abatement, they need to come before the board and defend what they're asking for.
So we won't be having an executive session tonight. Any other business that anybody wants to bring up?
Yeah, not to extend this any further, but I think we really need to revisit the marijuana stuff.
Agreed.
It's something that I think I know James said we've reached a saturation or the limit, but I really think we need to focus on that and make sure that we don't wind up in another situation much in the same way we have with Blackmore. We've kind of ran into this with the apartments out on Cemetery Road as well, kind of a similar issue. So
Exactly.
let's focus, I think, on this. I think it needs to be a topic of discussion, whether it be a workshop or whatever, I don't know. But I'm not against business, but I think that we don't have 13 Walgreens and 13
Exactly.
CVS's. It becomes a point where I think that we have to look at the whole picture and what the future of Berwick as a whole is going to look like. To your point, Tom, when everybody voted on legalization of marijuana, I think the thought processes were, hey, I want to grow my own weed and smoke it in my home without having to worry about it. I don't think everybody was thinking major cultivation or industrial production of marijuana.
Right.
And I could be wrong, but that would be my suspicion. So I think that let's at least discuss this and determine whether we need to.
I think when they first started this marijuana stuff, there was really no template in the thought process of what they were taking on. And I think the office of in Augusta has found that out, and I think that's why it's taken them the length of time it has, besides the COVID thing. And I think we've been because of the COVID, we haven't had a meeting with the planning board. And I think as soon as we can, I think it would be prudent before we get into the, or during the budget process and looking towards June, if we're gonna make some changes, we really need to jump on that and start talking about what we're looking at on this end of things and anything else we have, so we can get it on the June
When
ballot.
you look back on some of the other states, whether it be Oregon or Colorado, see what they're doing
Right.
for this same type of thing that you're talking about, Steve.
Yeah, I know the office of,
What?
their office has heavily been involved with talking to people from Oregon and Colorado. And that, even 4 years ago, Maine town and city managers had people from Colorado come in and speak about things that they found that they had missed and were making changes on. So they were the guinea pig, I guess, and they really learned along the way. And I think Maine has taken that information and done a better job for our.
So we're able to, as a town, so as time goes on, even though this was, could go there now, or we did this, then we can change it to do this now, right? We're able to do it every time we relicense them? James, whatever? So when a license come up for renewal, can we talk to the applicant and say, well, yeah, I want, take down your banner, can have more lights in the parking lot, whatever, that type of thing?
Yeah, there are some things that are within, I'll have to read the ordinance, but you can impose conditions. And how far, in the future, yeah, yep.
You can
So let's just
deny.
make that an agenda item sometime in the near future.
That's a good point, Ed, we should do that.
All right.
And I tend to agree with what Ed said earlier, that, 4 years ago, when people in town voted for it, most people weren't thinking about commercial marijuana grows. They were thinking about, growing a few plants for themselves or something like that. And, it really took us by surprise, I think. And, they have been good neighbors. We can't deny that, as we have had no problems with them. They pay their taxes, they, follow the regulations, so. But I do agree that we need to sit down with the planning department and the planning board and, look at this again. And,
What happened in Canada not too long ago was they had the same situation we have in different towns. There were, a lot of places where they were growing it and selling it. But what happened was the big tobacco company came in, bought them all.
Yeah.
I don't know, it was Marlboro or Camel, somewhere one of those, bought all of them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that could happen.
Makahaya was involved in some of that.
Yeah, it's a good place for them.
As long as it's not Berwick. Did I say that? Any other business, non-agenda items? If not, we have a motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
Everybody agrees? Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Yes.
Have a good evening.
You too, thank you.
To
You know,